We are talking about passports and citizenships that you can realistically obtain around the world if you are a millionaire. I'm not going to say that Switzerland has the best passport because, let's be honest, unless you have Swiss family or marry a Swiss citizen, you are never going to get Swiss citizenship. The same goes for Luxembourg or Japan. Sure, they offer amazing international mobility, but most people are not going to move to Japan, pay 55% in taxes, live there for 5 or 6 years, learn Japanese, and get the Japanese passport. And even if you dream of having an Emirati or Singaporean passport, they are not going to give you either. Those countries apply the concept of jus sanguinis very strictly, or they may grant it if you bring in hundreds and hundreds of millions, not 10 or 20, and attract serious talent to the country. So which countries offer achievable citizenship for most millionaires within a relative short time and also happen to provide excellent passports? It all depends on your goals and preferences. For example, Malta had, up until a few weeks ago, the best citizenship by investment program. You would invest about $1,200,000 and in 1.5 to 2 years you could get Maltese citizenship. But if you have no interest in being part of the European Union and you don't want any ties to it, then Malta might actually be the worst passport for you. It's tied to the EU, it's expensive, and if you don't want to be in the EU, it's probably a terrible choice. But I still have to include it because, objectively, it's one of the best passports in the world. It gives you the right to live in any EU country, visa-free access to the US and Australia and Canada, and is highly respected. So let's put that one at the top. Of course, if you are from Latin America, Ibero-Americans, Hispanics, okay, or maybe you are Filipino, you could look at Spain because maybe you are interested in living there 2 years, having the passport, and fleeing. It all depends on your goals, because maybe you are not interested in paying nearly 50% on your income for 2 years, plus a wealth tax, a large fortunes tax, and a possible exit tax down the line. We would have to evaluate that. There is also Portugal. The Golden Visa requires €500,000 invested in government-approved funds with returns. I used to recommend it a lot until I saw the new draft law, which proposes extending the citizenship timeline from 5 to 10 years and starting the clock from the moment you receive residency, which takes another 2 or 3 years. That's a total of 13 years before getting a passport. Maybe you won't need to live there much, just 7 to 14 days per year, and you might not even become a tax resident, but still, that's nearly 15 years to get a passport. Is it worth it? That's up to you. For me, it's no longer a real option, but if you don't mind waiting and you want a long-term path to EU citizenship with little commitment, it might work. Now, stepping out of the EU and those 3 major options, let's look at 2 of my favorite passports: Mexico and Argentina. Why Mexico and Argentina? They don't offer visa-free access to the US, but they do grant access to pretty much any other country you would want to visit, except Australia and the US, where you can still get a visa quite easily if you are wealthy Mexican or Argentinian. We are not talking about ESTA in this case, maybe a B1 or B2 visa or even a E2 visa where you will face no restrictions and no abusive taxes like a green card or US citizenship. Also, Mexican citizens by descent can pass down citizenship to their children, and those children could apply for Spanish citizenship after just 2 years of residency in Spain. Both the Mexican and Argentinian passports are very attainable for the average millionaire. In Argentina, for example, after only 2 years of living there, you can apply for citizenship. It's not as easy as it was a few years ago. Milei has changed that this year, and in my view, for the better, though he's gone a bit too far because now you can live even 1 day during those 2 years. Also, Argentina has taxes, not low ones, and a wealth tax, so that's important to mention. They also offer citizenship by exception, meaning a judge can approve your request if you are making a major contribution to the country, investing millions, buying a lot of real estate, and so on. If you are European, American, or Canadian, you can apply before a judge and receive citizenship even before the 2-year mark, and without being a tax resident. The same goes for Mexico. You can obtain citizenship even before 2 years, or before the 5-6 years that apply to most people. If you invest and get permanent residency, the requirement is 2 years. If you have a child or marry in Mexico, you can apply after 2 years. You can naturalize faster if you are contributing to the country. Both countries generally don't enforce taxes aggressively on their citizens, at least not directly. The law says one thing, but in practice, you can do certain things outside the radar, where no one will come after you. That's not the right thing to do. I'm not encouraging you illegal behavior, but it's the reality in both countries. For example, if you move to Spain for 10 years, good luck, you are going to pay insane taxes. I'm originally from Spain and spent my whole life there, but I'm no longer a tax resident. There is no way I'm paying current tax rates again. I love Spain, but I'm not on board with working 6 months of the year for free. That's for someone else, not for me. Spain's tax agency, Hacienda, is extremely aggressive, especially compared to Mexico or Argentina, where enforcement isn't nearly as intense. I always encourage everyone to obey the law and pay taxes, but if we're being realistic about which countries make life harder to you, then Spain, the US, Canada, the UK or Australia will make it much harder than Argentina or Mexico ever will. Next we have Serbia. It's a great country, though its passport isn't as strong as Mexico's, for instance. Still, it offers decent access, including to the Schengen area, Russia and China. It's a respected country and the passport makes it relatively easy to obtain residency permits elsewhere. You can apply for Serbian citizenship by exception, though it's not easy and depends on your nationality and how you contribute to the country. Are you buying property? Starting a business? Hiring people? Applying as a US or EU citizen makes things easier. If you are from India, for example, it will be taller, but not impossible. It really depends on your international reputation beyond just your passport. Have you had a US visa approved or denied? Do you already have a Schengen residency permit? But if you are a multimillionaire, it's a passport you can obtain, and it gives you decent global access in a country that is developing well, especially looking ahead to the Belgrade Expo in 2027. Of course, it's not my favorite country, nor is it for many others, but if you are contributing economically, you could have citizenship in under 6 months. It works well as a primary or backup option. The next category includes countries that are easy for anyone to get into, offer good global access, but carry some reputational risks and the chance of losing that access. Here we find the Caribbean nations, St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia and Antigua. I would rank Dominica a bit lower than the rest. Many people say St. Kitts is the best, I put in the same level as Antigua. They all have similar access and reputations. For example, many banks won't accept a St. Kitts passport just like they won't accept one from Antigua, because they are seen as a tax haven. There is no meaningful difference between these islands. Dominica has an extra reputational issue. They use passport to people with criminal records or failed due diligence checks. That's why I rank it slightly lower. Caribbean passports overall offer great access, but there is always the risk they will lose entry to the Schengen zone, and they carry the stigma of selling passports. Although today their due diligence is strong, the European Commission still criticizes them for letting foreigners into Europe while letting in refugees and asylum seekers without even a passport. Pure hypocrisy from the EU. If I had to pick one, I would go with Grenada. Then there is Turkey. I love the Turkish passport. It gives you access to many non-Western countries. You can get it by investment, not just donating like in the Caribbean. Turkey is a country you could realistically live in. I like Istanbul. I have been many times and I love transiting through there with Turkish Airlines. Many of our clients have gotten it by investing in real estate and receiving the passport within months. Now it takes a bit longer, about a year and a half, with a stricter due diligence, but it's relatively fast. In my personal case, I wouldn't use Turkish citizenship as my main passport or as a base to apply for other residencies. I'd much rather have Mexican, Argentinian or Serbian citizenship for that. That's why I rank them higher. That said, Turkey pairs well with a Schengen residency and gives you pretty solid visa-free access. And finally, we have citizenship by investment programs in countries you probably won't consider or that most Westerners wouldn't even think about. Here I would include Vanuatu, Nauru, and countries like Sierra Leone, which has a citizenship by investment program for about $140,000. Vanuatu is around $130,000 and Nauru is about $140,000. They offer similar access, although Sierra Leone, being an African passport, has much more limited international mobility. We have secured 2 Sierra Leonean passports since the program launched less than a year ago, both for clients living and doing businesses in Africa, moving tens of millions where it just made sense given their origin. Vanuatu has reputational issues. It's being banned from the Schengen area. Now you absolutely need a visa. You used to be able to enter, now you can't. Still, if all you want is a backup passport to open bank or crypto accounts and you want to distance yourself from the West, it might be useful. One Colombian client told me he wanted something distant, an emergency plan in case he ever needed to flee Colombia due to war. He wasn't doing anything illegal, but he wanted a way out. For him, Vanuatu was a good fit, and he was ready to spend the $130,000 needed for citizenship. I wouldn't recommend these programs to most people, but for some, they are a good plan C or D. For example, a Pakistani citizen, someone with almost no visa access and heavily international discrimination, might start with a Vanuatu passport, then get Turkish, then Serbia, and gradually trade up until they reach something like Portuguese. If you are looking to get a second citizenship and second passport, I invite you to check out the channel because you have a lot of options, or simply fill out the form and let's take a look together.